Greetings. It's amazing how people have to survive in different ways in different lands, and seem like everybody have an issue with their leadership, their political, their governance, their governing bodies, and it's amazing to me that people can't really relate. But then again, maybe it's the small numbers in every region. There's small numbers, point the finger, blaming everybody else but not blaming the leadership. So this lady stopped me a couple weekends ago, and she had a cameraman, and she was talking to me about the reptilians and if I knew about those things. We see a lot of information about a lot of different things, and we have the holy books and whatnot, and people are trying to make sense of these things while trying to make sense of their day-to-day survival. Very interesting how we are bombarded with so many angles, so many variety, of things. So the South Africa thing, with South Africans calling other Africans immigrants. This is why we have to stay out of politics because people don't realize that they were made to think a particular way. Call it colonization. Like you can't escape from it wherever you go. But the real enemy seemed to somehow always escape, because all throughout history it seemed like people were never happy. The world is never happy. The people are never happy. It's always some fight. And it's, the usual. People come and go, and life is short, and it never really change. Everybody's always in survival mode. There's certain groups of people who observe what's going on around them and try to stay off the radar and just survive. And maybe sometimes people may look at them as if they're not helping. But really and truly, how much can anybody help? I just watched a clip today of, in the early 1900s, a group of white people just massacre some black people and change all the rules and laws instantly at gunpoint, kill all the men. They said 2,000 white men with guns. I mean, these things happen today, These things happen in a lot of countries, In the Americas, especially the United States, they do these sort of things, but they have to be a little bit more reserved. But they get their way nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? Because you're never able to organize organizations that can go up against that group that want their way. It's so difficult, for some years I've been watching this thing about the FBA, and FBA talking about immigrants and their lineage, and it's like people come up with these things to try to formulate groups to just basically make money. You know what I'm saying? You don't really have any real activists and advocates, you know what I'm saying, whose lives are on the line. And you have to wonder if these people, you have to wonder if they're bought and paid for. Because some of their talking points seem so ridiculous, you know. And then when you see something like what's happening in South Africa, that foolishness also strengthens, you know, these other groups. But the irony is, in every place that you go, you're going to have minor groups that are just not intelligent enough to put it together. They're dunces. They're fools, you know. People have fought for land and country for thousands of years, and they're dead. They're dead and gone. And now other people are doing whatever they wish or whatever they will with these same countries and lands that they fought for. You're looking for heaven on earth, but the groups that lead, they can't really relate to you. They come from different classes of people a lot of times. And then even if you have somebody who come from another class and they get in, they have to fall in line because the system is already in place. These are common things that everybody should know. Or they do know, but they're in denial. Or they what? Is it delusion? You know, it's ridiculous. You know, on one hand, you have some people telling you that, you know, there's the American dream, but the majority of people can't afford houses, homes. They can be pushed out at any given time. And you have another group of people that may live in a predominantly black place with black leadership, and yet still they still have to answer to some outside people who in the past colonized them. Their children still think that they're over them. And if they decide to make certain moves, somebody can tell them, hey, no, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So the best thing we can do is just observe. Those of us who try to stay under the radar. And if you have people that talk too loud and make too much headway, they just knock you off. That these things still happening today. I heard about some scientists, not sure who these scientists are or what they're about, what they're sciencing, you know. So a lot of people say what a great time to live, but they have people suffering out there. You know, you have people taking on names of people who in reality they mistreat right now, but they have their ancient names. The gaslighting is off the charts. You know, you have people calling themselves chosen people. You know, you have artifacts from thousands of years and you can't find them in it. They don't have no association with it. Where did these people come from is the question I have. You know, and then you have people talking to you about God. They talking to you about God and what's happening in the heavenly realms, and they don't even know what's happening in the back rooms of their government right here on earth where they are. A very mystic vibration. These people know everything because some things is written in a book, and their answer is some type of mystical, futuristic coming of something. And millions, maybe trillions of people already pass through the earth expecting the same thing and never see it. And these people today think that they're so special that they're going to see it. And the system is just running. We just drop in for a short time and drop out. a lot of mysteries, you know. But there's so many things going on, and you're sucked into it. It's like you can't even really focus on your own people. But the question is, who is your people? FBA, Foundation of Black Americans, they claim that they come from a particular lineage, but they forget about breeding and interbreeding. A lot of people here in the West have a lot of mix up inside of their makeup. But they want to say that they're this or that. Maybe they are. Maybe you can judge by woolly here. Maybe. You have Hebrew Israelites out here talking about they hate Africans. How can you hate a people, generally speaking, as opposed to hating actions of people? How does that work? Because a book told you so? Or you interpret it that way? I mean, why should a supreme creator create something that he hates? That is confusion to me. Is the creator confusion? I mean, free will is a harsh reality. Free will, harsh reality. Because you know what you love, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. And you would expect, that other people would not like certain things or would not love certain things. So how is it we can't just adhere to that simple science? You know what I'm saying? And for all these people who commit brutality and wickedness on the earth, I mean, where are you going to end up? Even if you live a beautiful life outside of the evil, you can buy what you want, do what you want, say what you want, be with who you want to be with. And I mean, I'm always amazed we don't live forever. Whether or not you say that we're going to rise again, or we're going to, jump into a different body, or bodies are going to be reformulated. I'm not saying these things are impossible, because life in itself is an amazement, But the world is in chaos, man. Too much classism, racism, and all these things. There's a lot of that. And everybody knows that everybody wants the same things. But why should certain groups want to be better than, or to be looked upon as better than, or to portray that they're better than, or think that they're better than? What is that about? How? Nobody created themselves. You don't know the ins and outs of creation, specifically even just dealing with people, human beings. You don't know what it takes. We can interbreed with each other. That means there's the equality and a balance there. If you can interbreed, with no mutation. With that being said, still, the one race that seems to have not been around for a very long time is the so-called white race, or they call them Europeans and Caucasians, but we know that ancient Europe is melanated people, royal families from ancient time. So what I've come to, or what I've been thinking about, is these ancient maps that have our lands that we're used to right now, plus other lands. The validation is that those other lands that we don't see today on a everyday map still has our current lands that we are familiar with in those maps. So it seems like groups of people came from other regions to conquer and pillage. Maybe that's the big secret, People saying Egypt in the west, Egypt in the east. People saying Eden, you know. But yeah, we have predators and prey. You know what I'm saying? To think that there's a place where everything is working in unison, nothing harming anything else. You know, I can't really see that, but I can see where a group of people came from a distant place, somehow shut you out from knowing what that place is, where it is, so you don't know where they came from, and they come here and try to dominate you. And that is all it's been, the social construct of dominating others, taking theirs and calling it theirs, taking people's things. But anyway, you still have to try to make sense of it, you know, if you're living in this place. Protect yourself if possible, but I don't know what we need at this point. But I can agree to it being a test, you know, and there are other steps. You can see that. Comprehension and perception means that we were made to be witnesses of creation. Blessed.